Welcome to the Pregnancy Loss Podcast, the place I created for moms like us. Pregnancy loss is all-encompassing and creates an overarching theme that runs through our lives forever. We have to learn to live with and beside the grief of losing our baby. We have to learn how to live again, how to parent again, how to engage and interact and be social again, how to communicate effectively to connect with our spouses and significant others. We have to find who we are now. I'm here to empower and inspire you to live a life even with our unique circumstances. We cannot change what happened, but we can grow and use that strength and resilience to create a life that we love. I'm here to share everything I know about grief, motherhood, loss, marriage, friendship, and parenting. I'm here to encourage you to find the beautiful side of grief, the side where we don't have to isolate ourselves or suppress the need to share stories, the side where you have moms just like you to support and encourage you. The side where we become the best versions of ourselves, not in spite of our loss, but thanks to it. Pregnancy loss is devastating, but it can also be an opportunity to reflect on who we were and who we want to become. So join me every Tuesday for a new episode on the Pregnancy Loss Podcast. Let's jump in. Hey mamas, so happy you're here. Welcome back to another episode of the Pregnancy Loss and Motherhood Podcast. So glad you're here. If you have been here for a while and you're one of my loyal listeners, I have quite a few. If you could take a few minutes after the episode and leave me a review, whether it's Apple on Spotify, Castbox, iHeartRadio, leave me a review and a rating for the podcast. The more reviews and ratings that I get, the higher my podcast ranks, and then more people can find me. And so that's always super helpful. And I've started recording my podcast now, audio and video, which will go on my YouTube channel so you can actually watch it and watch me and get to know me and all my euphemisms and all me. So yeah, let's jump in. So today we're going to talk about my identity crisis after my stillbirth, which was pretty devastating. It's probably one of the most devastating parts of the experience besides losing my daughter is that I lost myself. Not just lost myself, the old version of me basically died. There was no way I could continue being that person anymore after Evelyn died. And if you're listening and not watching, I always light a candle for our babies. And I just want you to know that because if I know you personally and I know your story and your baby, I think about them often. So just wanted to say that. But anyways, so with stillbirth and miscarriage, it's like it rips open this black hole and it devastatingly like sucks in everything that was before. Our old life, our old beliefs, relationships. Some relationships cannot withstand the blast from a stillbirth or miscarriage. And again, so the most debilitating is our identity before we lost our child. The thoughts of who am I now? What do I do? How do I live? If you have other children, how can I parent my other kids like this? Like, how do I survive my grief and still parent? What is going to happen to my marriage and my friendships? Like, this person's not talking to me. Why do I feel so alone? There are so many questions that go through our mind all day, every day after you lose a baby. And I feel like the experience breaks everything down to its most basic forms. Everything seems really confusing and it is so hard. Just waking up every day to the realization that my womb was empty and I have a pregnant, like a postpartum body, but my baby's gone. Our faces are swollen half the time from the buckets of tears that stream down our faces, and we're bare, we're exposed, we're vulnerable, and just like split wide open. It's like we realize how cruel it can be to be a human while at the same time being so insanely grateful to be alive. and understanding how magical it is to be in this world, to be living. My glasses are crooked and it's driving me crazy. Okay. Losing a baby, it creates this duality that we will unfortunately be living in the rest of our lives. So everything that we do from that point on, we do with a little extra caution, maybe anxiety, possibly indecisiveness, stagnant, like not growing and changing. And I noticed for me, I didn't want to make plans anymore because who cares? Like it may or may not happen. And I didn't want to be social. I didn't want to have to explain myself. I didn't want to have to explain why my daughter died. One, I didn't know, I don't have a 100% answer, or what happened or what I think happened or whatever. And I just worried about being stuck. I just always had this overwhelming feeling of, oh my God, what if I never get through this? I had, for me, I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, and at 34, I am still working through parts of it. I've actually done a lot of work in the last year with my therapist, and I'm super proud of that. But because it's taken me so long, because I realized that I had all this trauma, and it was like, oh my God, is it going to take me another 30 years to get through this or just to feel happy again? I worried that I'd never smile or laugh or find the teeniest bit of joy again. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do next. I slapped a fake smile on whenever anyone spoke to me or asked me how I was doing, just pretending I had it all together, because most of the time I didn't have the energy to break down and cry again. I didn't have the capacity or the energy to explain it for the 100th time, it felt like. And half the people that asked me didn't deserve to know. Like they weren't a part of my life, really. Excuse me. They were more acquaintance like, or just somebody who saw me pregnant in the community. And I didn't want to waste my time. It's just, I always thought, isn't there a freaking limit to how many tears that bereaved parents have to cry? Like, I remember the feeling of the puffy face and how tender it was. Like it burned because all the salt from our tears, like, it's like the acid, like it's just all the feelings associated with it. But everything I knew and everything I was stripped away. I was blank, like an angry, sad, blank canvas or human, that had this postpartum body that had just carried my daughter past the 40-week mark, and she died anyways. And all I could do was get up each morning, and every morning in the beginning for the first few months, I woke up and I had to live through that moment of, where's Evelyn? And, oh, she's dead. She died. I would get up, live through that, and keep going. And if I'm being honest, ever since becoming a mom, my identity has changed over every season and every child. I think that's just a natural part of life, a natural way to life. And I think that's one of the coolest things about being a mom and a parent. I would hate to be who I was when I first became a mom at 24. Oh my goodness, I could not imagine being that person now. And in order to be a better version of myself and the next version mother, because I had gone through another pregnancy and another birth. And I did have another child that I could parent, but in a different way because she wasn't physically here. And I had to grow. I still had to change and grow with the seasons. And this was one of them. One that I had not counted on, one that I did not plan for, obviously, one that I did not want to go through. But I think this alone, like knowing that it was one of those seasons that I had to grow and change through, helped me to realize that I had to keep going. I mean, for me, I had 2 little girls at home that depended on me. And so I focused on them and our house. So spending so much time cuddling and talking. And we got a puppy, Theodore, a little boxer puppy. And he was born the same day Evelyn was. And it's 2 synchronicity. Oh, I can't say that word. Don't judge me. But synchronicities were showing up. And he brought us so much love and joy. And he gave us a break from our grief, but he also gave us a place to put all of our love and attention. And Evelyn was part of that too with us. Like, the girls then had a focus, our puppy, and so did I. And it became such a soft place for us. It was such a good place. And I just slowed down. I made the decision that I didn't want to run through life, getting my to-do list done, putting my kids in front of the TV, and it was a slow season in our life. And I honestly haven't had that before. And in that same time frame, like a few months after Evelyn died, I had some of my best friends moving within months of the loss. We were a military family, and our community we're always moving and going, and so my community became smaller and smaller, and I became more reclusive. I didn't want new friends. It takes a lot of effort to build friendships, especially after you have a loss. And I couldn't stand all the, can't think of the word, but I couldn't stand all these annoying problems, I guess we'll just say, of everyone around me. Like surface issues, that cause everyday irritations that we all have. But there's certain people that get stuck in that, right? And there were 2 things that I knew. I could not be around people that were stagnant. And the people I'm talking about, these are the same people that would allow me to sit in my grief and victimhood for the rest of my life if I wanted to. They're okay with not growing. And if you grow above them, they kind of fall off, which is good for us. And then the second thing I knew was that I needed to do something. I needed to help someone. I needed to give all this love to someone. Guys, I'm sorry. And I had Theodore. I had the girls, and they probably got tired of all my hugs and my love. And before I lost Evelyn, I had taken my postpartum doula workshop so that I could be a doula. So I started jumping back into this work as soon as I could. And as soon as John got home from his deployment, I got my first family, which was also a twin family. And because of that, they're some of the most special people in the world to me. They always will be. They trusted me and allowed me to help them in such a vulnerable and raw time. I loved it. And it was so hard, but I loved it. And I was also pregnant with Emmett, my rainbow baby. So, I mean, I was up all night taking care of twins, pregnant, had to go home the next day when John went to work. I took care of the girls. Like, it wasn't the best idea for me, but oh my God, I loved it. This gave me a sense of purpose, a fulfillment. Like, and I haven't felt this in forever. Just being able to help a mom who is in this space of newbornness with twins, who wouldn't sleep, who had colicky issues and heartburn. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now, but there was just a lot. Okay. And this, they already had 2 children. So they went from 2 to 4. And it was just such a big adjustment. But it also threw me into a million ideas about who I wanted to help and what I could do in this space. And I was hooked in this field. I was right where I needed to be. I believe that. I believe Evelyn led me to that. And it was only the beginning of the journey. And that's almost 5 years ago. And so 5 years later, I am still chasing all these dreams. And there's so many new dreams. And I'm trying to create spaces for doulas and moms and helping lost moms turn their pain into a purpose. That's my next goal. That's, my identity is helping other women through this season. And I want you to remember, if you feel as if you can't seem to move on, just know there's no moving on from our babies. Like, why would we want to do anything like that? Anything that suggests moving away from our babies, it doesn't work. They will always be with us. The grief will hit us throughout our lifetime in unexpected times. And we will also be triggered. And oftentimes there's going to be new triggers that come up that we didn't even know were a trigger. But that doesn't stop this life. We can grieve and we can be sad and we can love our babies, but we can also find purpose. We can grieve and feel love and joy. We can grieve and still spend our days with a smile on our faces. We are bereaved moms. We live dual lives. My friend Barb, who I had interviewed, she had kind of explained it like having one foot. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it's like one foot in the past and one foot in the future. Like, we're always balancing that line of our baby that we lost and living our life. Like, it's a balancing act, truly. And some days, if you like visuals, some days you're not going to think about your baby as much. And those days you might be living your life and being present. And some days you might not be able to be present at all, and all you're doing is sobbing on the couch, cuddling your baby's urn, which is what I did with Evelyn. I always sobbed with her urn. Going through all the paperwork, trying to figure out what happened. Like, so some days are going to be, it's going to go up and down. If you want support or direction in finding a way to turn your pain into purpose, and you just can't quite figure out what you could do, you can reach out to me for one-on-one. I offer free one-on-ones to help you narrow your focus and see where you're at in your journey. And if you're ready to focus more on the future than the past, I can put a link in the show notes below. And as always, I'm rooting for my loves, my mamas. If you ever need anything, send me a message. I'm literally always here. If you need help finding therapy or you need help, I don't know, finding support, let me know. You can always email me, and that will also be down below. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Pregnancy Loss Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
I created a guide on 20 ways to celebrate your angel baby. It gives you 20 amazing ways to celebrate their birthdays or ways to just remember them on any given day. If you want to download it, head over to valenweb.com/resources and click the link. I hope you guys have a great week. See you next time.